Hey, we are back. Unbelievable. It is Blair and Barker. July 3rd. Happy day before the 4th of July, Barker.
Thanks, buddy.
The Blue Jays will be taking on the Houston Astros in the third game of a four-game series tonight at the Rogers Center. The Jays coming off a 7-6 win last night. We have the Jays lineup here, Kevin Barker. We talked about this on Blair and Barker yesterday because, let's face it, Bo Bichette is really scuffling.
So what do you do with him?
Well, we were discussing this, and we both agreed that, you don't bench him. I suggested you move
Bench him.
Let me finish. I suggested moving him down into the number 2 spot. You really were non-committal.
No, I did. That's not what I said. I said you can't move Horowitz out of in front of Vladdy because Horowitz is getting on base all the time.
Anyhow, this is the Jays lineup today. George Springer's leading off in DH. Of course he is. They were just waiting for George to get hot.
Overreaction. What is today? Wednesday.
Anyhow,
Crazy.
George Springer playing the hot hand. George Springer's leading off against Ronel Blanco, who no-hit these guys, by the way, the last time. Spencer Horwitz is hitting second. Vladdy's third. Bo is cleaning up. Dalton Varsho's in center. Davis Schneider's in left. Ernie Clements at third. Addison Barges in right. Brian Servin is behind the plate. He is, of course, up here while Danny Jansen is away on paternity leave. And Yusei Kikuchi toes the rubber for the Blue Jays. Kevin Barker, your immediate reaction to this lineup?
Yeah, it's dumb. But what, I mean,
yeah, you said that. You said that. Now, you said it was dumb the last time the Jays, when they moved Bo Bichette in the leadoff spot.
Yeah,
what happened in that game?
They won.
What was the score in that game?
9-4.
9-4, yeah. And you said it was dumb.
It is dumb. Had nothing to do with Bo.
Well,
it was everybody else. I don't get it. But
George is hot now. You get him up there.
Yeah, they're
Who'd you rather have getting an extra at-bat right now, George or Bo?
I'd rather have George coming up in traffic on the bases. How's that?
Okay.
And I'm trying to hide Bo, and the easiest way to do that is just to keep him in the same spot all the time. Why are you moving him around? I mean, you can tell he's already frustrated about something. Who knows what that something is? But moving him around, now he's hitting cleanup. Like, you think his at-bats are going to get better with especially with the way Horowitz and Springer and Vladdy are getting on base all the time. Now you want Bo Bichette coming up with all that traffic on the base. It's like, boy, it's just like they sit around after the games and go,
let's overthink it.
What do we do? I don't like it. We're scoring too many runs. Like I just don't like it this way. Can we do something about it, Coach? Can we mix it around? It's mind-boggling. But whatever. I'm not in the room. I don't know their players the way they do, and I know what struggling looks like because I've done it a bunch, and Bo's going through that. And he's hitting cleanup
since putting Bo in the lineup. Okay, so they won 9-4 with Bo in the lineup. They lost 9-2. They lost 16-5. They won 9-3. They lost 8-1. They lost 3-1. They won 7-6. So I mean, they have been scoring runs for the most part. And you're right. It's not like Bo is. I think Bo's biggest contribution to any one of those is a couple of.
I'll give it to you.
A couple of walks.
Last 6 games, he's hitting 125. He's got 8 Ks and no extra base hits. So he's not doing anything. But you want him to not do anything with a bunch of guys on base. I'm not saying that's going to happen against Blanco because it seems nobody can figure out the slider and the changeup off of him. But
Bo does have a home run against Blanco.
It's like 2 years ago. It's not this Bo. Okay. It's not shocking. Like, we had this conversation, and I knew you were bringing it up because you knew it was coming.
I could tell.
That's why last night you were bringing it up and trying to throw me under the bus because you knew I was not going to give the right answer.
No.
That's what it was.
I was not.
Because nobody knows.
No.
It's just, it's occasionally it's mind-boggling.
Dalton Varsho's hitting 5th.
Of course he is. I got more hits last month than he's got.
It's got to be the swing path thing, hey?
I don't know.
I think I'm going to sneeze.
I mean, Blanco throws a bunch of changeups to left-handed hitters. Off the changeup, they're hitting 163. They're slugging 306. What do you think Varsho's getting a bunch of? Elevated four-seamers in the changeup. So, I mean, I guess there's no right answer to this. But I would think you want the guy coming up at the right time with a bunch of traffic against the dude who's really good right now at doing things. So you're thinking it's a bloop and a bomb. I mean, maybe they're thinking I'd rather have George Springer getting the extra at bat than Bo Bichette. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Maybe they're thinking they ain't got a ton of chances of stringing together a bunch of hits. One dude's going to get 3 at bats. One dude's going to get 4 at bats. You'd rather have George getting it. I'm guessing, but I'm assuming.
We did have a trade today in Major League Baseball. The Tampa Bay Rays traded Aaron Savali for an infielder who was, I think he was like Milwaukee's 21st pick overall or something, or 21st rated infielder overall, which of course means that he'll be in the All-Star game in 2 years. No, I mean, the Rays are closer to the wild card than the Jays.
Yep.
And they're trading starting pitching. Surprised? It's the Rays.
No. I think they know what they can get for certain guys, and when they can get it, they're going to get it. Like, they're not messing around, and I think the writing's sort of on the wall.
Yeah, like Savali's not pulling up trees this year by any stretch of the imagination.
No. So I think again, it's about you put a guy on the market. Whenever you put him on, you can get what you get for him. You get it. Like that's, they got a need because of health reasons. I think middle infielders. Occasionally, some guys are just not they're available. So you need as many as you can get, right? And it's like the next man up mentality for that team.
I'm sure the Rays they've probably identified something in this guy that they. What are you laughing at?
Somebody just texted me something. Said something about the lineup. It's like.
I'm sure they've probably seen something in this.
You think?
This kid that they like?
I thought you were talking about the Chase lineup.
No, I'm not surprised. And I'm just not surprised. The thing is, how many weeks did we go with George Springer leading off doing squat?
Yeah.
And again, I'm with you. Bo has not done any. I don't listen. I have no idea. I have no idea what's up with Bo Bichette.
Bo doesn't
idea.
Either. I'm sure it's not only baseball.
I am a little surprised that.
I'm sure it has. It's a lot of things, right? It's not bringing in extra things to help the team. I'm sure it's just mindset of being moved around. I mean, he's the one guy that's moved around in the lineup all the time.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can't be happy about that. So
first thing the manager did when he took over from Charlie Montoya
put him in the 6 or 7 hole. It's like he's the one guy they pick on. So if I'm Bo, I'm not real happy about that either. So it's like will his at bats change? Absolutely not. He'll swing at everything from ear to toe. So it's just about being on time with the leg kick, getting the foot down on time, and hopefully catching some things a little bit out front more. He's really, really, really late on everything, and he's got front side pull too. I don't think he's trying to pull everything, but sometimes I think when you're trying to generate something, maybe it's got the feel of you eliminating one side of the field, and he's a big inside out guy. We all know that, right? And right now, his direction, at least with his finish, when he falls across the plate the way he does, is more to the pull side than it is up the middle the other way. So, again, I'm assuming they can't move him any lower. Mm-hmm. I would think they want Springer getting the extra at bat against this guy.
We will be joined by Jim Callis at 4:30. Sunday is the MLB Draft. Jim Callis will look ahead to that. We'll talk a little about the state of he's a senior writer with MLB Pipeline. We'll talk a little about the state of the Jays system, although probably not a great deal to talk about, to be quite honest. Jeff Passan joins us as well. We'll take a deeper dive into the Aaron Savali trade, what that tells us about. Does it tell us anything about the market, and what pitchers are going to be bringing back in return? Again, first pitch is tonight at 7:07. Draft is July 14th. What did I say? Oh, July 14th. Pardon me. I thought it was this Sunday. Anyhow, the draft is July 14th. And tonight's first pitch, we'll see Ronel Blanco against Yusei Kikuchi. Third game of a 4-game series. We'll be along with Jays Talk following the game, and we'll have Jays Talk tomorrow as well following the afternoon game. And then the Jays are on the road until the All-Star break. And, see what happens after the All-Star break, how soon the pieces start to move.
You think they're moving?
I would think they have to.
Hey,
we've talked about this for the last month. I guess define pieces.
It's like what the Rays are doing, starting to do. You get what you can get when you can get it.
Yeah.
It's just the question, who's doing it. That's the only question for me.
The Bichette thing is really here's the thing. It was going to be this whole thing about either moving on from Bo or Vladdy or committing to Bo and Vladdy was going to be complex enough, because that's the way this organization does things. It was going to be complex enough without having Bo scuffle the way he is.
Yeah.
This was going to be, you just look to the history of Toronto sports. Quite often doesn't end well. You look at this team. Carlos Delgado, that didn't end well. The Jays let him go didn't even get a compensatory pick. Roy Halladay was traded. You look at the drama with Josh Donaldson leaving. You look at there was some drama with Jose Bautista, some drama with Eddie. I mean, it was not a smooth, and that's just not. Listen, it's harder and harder to find that these days in baseball or any sport, because there's so much money involved, right? It very seldom does a guy leave and everything is huggy, huggy, kissy, kissy, right? There's usually some stress points. But this is really, really complicating things. I'm sure Bo Bichette isn't sitting there waking up going, my God, I can't believe how much I'm complicating the picture for the Blue Jays by not hitting. But the fact of the matter is, it is complicating things, just as Vladdy's slow start kind of complicated things. I think with Bo, the track record, we've talked about, do you get more for Bo, or does Bo's lack of performance impact what you're going to get for him? I still think Bo's track record on balance is better than Vladdy's. I think more what you're getting with Bo.
Okay, let me ask you about optics. Optics matter with these teams going after a certain guy and what they're willing to give up because of the way he looks on and off the field. You see the way whenever we pan the camera on Bo,
he looks like an unhappy guy. And if I'm another team, I'm thinking they've got an unhappy guy there. I'm going to lowball them right out the gate.
Well, it ain't going to work. Like, they're not going to give him up for that. Like, you're wasting your time. But I'm saying, as an organization who needs a shortstop, and I'm assuming he's going to hit somewhere around the middle of the order, top of the order, fifth, sixth, somewhere in that range. But it's just the way he looks when he's between the lines. Does that matter? I mean, what is he? Jeff, he's got 281 at-bats. He's hitting 228. Like, it's just not Bo. I mean, it's a giant sample size of him not looking real good.
On the other hand, there's been 3 years of him looking real good. So, but
the last 3 years I haven't been trying to trade him.
Well, no, but my point is, again, an acquiring team, and this doesn't help things, but an acquiring team is going to look at Bo's previous. Like, you're not just getting Bo for this year. I think if you're acquiring Bo, and he does have another year before free agency, you're looking at possibly re-signing him. So,
just remember, you want him hitting the ground running. Like, you have to be on point with your scouting and know what's the problem and why he's not putting balls in play that he should be putting in play. Is it a change of scenery, and that's all it is?
Yeah, but you also have to remember, if he goes to, depending on the team that acquires him, it may not be a team that needs him to come in and be a contributor right off the bat. We've talked about the Dodgers. I don't think the Dodgers are a fit, but the Dodgers certainly have more wiggle room having Bo Bichette in their team than a lot of other teams would. But, I mean, listen, would it be better if he was hitting 300? Absolutely. But on the other hand, if Bo was hitting 300, I don't think these guys would be looking at trading him. So it has complicated. It has really complicated the situation. And I keep getting back to this, and I know it's, people in the organization don't like hearing this, but, they made their bed, man, by not locking these two guys up. They made their bed. This is what happens when you spend 3 years trying to tell people you've got generational talents and trying to tell the generational talents that they're the most important players in the team and try to tell them that they're the core and they're going to carry the team as far as it's going to go, yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. And then, and in the case of Vladdy, certainly go year to year with them. And in the case of Bo, give him a 3-year contract. But as far as we can tell, don't necessarily build off that momentum towards a multi-year deal. So this is this situation. I mean, how many years have we been doing this show? I've been talking about this for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get these guys locked up. You're going to get to a point especially if you don't win a World Series. You're going to get the point where you're going to have to make a call on this. And it is the most important decision any Jays front office has had to make since 92, 93. And it's where we are. So, I do think, though, the other thing, too, and I had someone point this out to me earlier today. We were texting. The fact that the team that acquires Bo, if Bo is to be traded, the fact that you already have a contract with him for next year and it's not an ungodly contract because he's already got his contract for next year.
Yeah.
There's a value in that for an acquiring team too. Because, okay, we're getting this guy.
Yeah.
And this is how much we're going to be paying our starting shortstop, our starting second baseman next year. So that, in hindsight, that might actually make it easier to trade him because how much you're going to have to pay him next year, where you don't know how much you're going to have to pay.
I just don't know if there's an equation to figure out whether just bringing Bo to a contender would make him happy enough that you're going to see the best Bo Bichette that you could possibly see the rest of the season.
I've got to think.
That's the thing.
Think for Bo.
That's the thing.
I got to think for Bo. Anything's better than this right now.
I guess it sure looks. I mean, it's very hard for me to talk about what's going on between his ears. I mean, I've struggled like that. I know what that feels like. I know what it looked like when I struggled. It looks exactly like that. You're not happy. Like everything you're trying is just not working. Yeah. And you can see that every time he takes a swing, you can almost see him processing it, saying basically, I took that same swing in the cage and I was destroying baseballs. Yeah. And I'm not doing that now. Every baseball player's been there. It's just how you handle it and how you come out of it. And it's going to be intriguing to see if they do it, who he goes to, and how it looks when he goes there.
Okay. We've got some news here from Shohei Ohtani.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it ain't good. Jordan Romano underwent arthroscopic surgery today to repair an impingement in his right elbow. He won't pick up a baseball for at least 6 weeks, making a return this season uncertain. So let's just say Jordan Romano's done for the year. A paternity list move is pending for Justin Turner, whose wife went into labor today. Danny Jansen and his wife are parents to new daughter Josephine. Congratulations to Danny Jansen. He's planning to rejoin tomorrow when his paternity leave expires. And Jimmy Garcia is throwing aside today. And if all goes well, again, this is from Shohei Ohtani, he may go out on a rehab assignment. Jimmy Garcia cannot get his ass back here soon enough, to be honest. Let's be clear. Let's be clear about that. So there you go, Jordan Romano. Can't say any of us are surprised. You go to visit Dr. Meister, you might as well just expose your elbow to him and say, slice away, dude, because I know you're going to do it at some point.
Yeah.
And
better do it now, get it over with, where the team and the organization's at, and you figure it out in the offseason, and hopefully comes back stronger. And he's the Jordan that everybody loves to watch, have the light show.
When is he a free agent?
2 years, I think.
2 years.
I think he's
got time to rehab before he's back on the.
I think it's 2 more years.
But there you go, Jordan Romano undergoing, and it's not Tommy John surgery. So I guess that's.
Just make you wonder, because of this, will that force him to change what he does on the mound? Right? It's a crossfire guy, max effort dude. Like is that going to change? Like and he abuses the slider. I mean, he throws a bazillion sliders. So. I mean, everybody has to adjust, I would think, when you go through surgery. And, the velocity's been a little all over the place anyway all year, right? They've been trying to do whatever, shoot him up and figure out ways to.
It's been clear that he hasn't he hasn't been the guy this year. And you mentioned this last year, and I know people didn't want to hear it because Jordan Romano's Canadian and everybody loves him, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you made the point last year that when the Jays went out to get Jordan Hicks and used him the way they used him, they were telling you something.
Absolutely.
About Jordan
Well, they'd
Romano.
never tell you out loud, but they were telling you something.
They were telling you something.
Yeah.
About how
No
they
question.
viewed Jordan Romano. And I listen, and I've said this, I wasn't entirely convinced that Jordan Romano was going to be the closer for this team when they were ready to take a run at the World Series. Anyhow, it's nothing against Jordan Romano. I just never.
Well, they've been telling us for 2 years they've been ready.
Yeah.
So who would be getting the ball if he was healthy? Jimmy Garcia was healthy. Who's getting the ball? It's Jordan. I mean, there ain't nobody else. All right. It's so, again, I think this gets back to what they, you've made this point a bazillion times about that, what they did not do to solidify the outskirts of the pen. You bring back the same exact core and expect the same exact result.
It doesn't happen.
It just don't. Like that, again, those good front offices with those really good teams have lots of turnover. I mean, you hear that Philly guy all the time saying the same thing. I hate bringing back the same bullpen. And he said it this year, but the chemistry was so good. Basically, what he's saying is, I got so many righties and so many lefties that throw a bazillion.
Yeah.
I just can't go out and bring in better than that.
Exactly.
But next year I will. The turnover needs to happen, right? It's just different arm angles, and guys are hungrier, and hearing the message over and over again, hearing it a different way, different result. Like it just this has to happen, and it didn't.
Yeah,
now they're paying for it.
This is a bullpen that's been brought. I mean, it's basically 3-year-old bullpen.
Yeah.
Right, with Meza, who's now gone.
Yeah.
Romano.
Yeah.
And Trevor Richards, who, outlier. But yeah, so there you go. Jordan Romano out for a minimum, or he's not going to be able to pick up a baseball for 6 weeks. And my guess is, see him in spring training next year.
Yep.
Because
wish him the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a good dude. He's a hard worker. He's earned everything he's got at the big league level.
He worked his ass to get where he is right now. He did not have a lot of. It wasn't exactly a smooth path for him.
But I'll say this: if you ever wanted to change that ninth inning guy, now'd be the time to do it. Like you want to go out and get you a guy to solidify that spot, and now Jordan come back and sort of fill in the blanks wherever you want him to fill in the blanks. Right now would be the right time to do it. So
here we go.
There we go.
Your to-do list for next year. We've looked for everyday catcher. Probably a third baseman, add closer to that.
Couple of starters.
Probably a couple of starters. Another
maybe
infielder, maybe a shortstop. So your to-do list, just your shopping list just got.
You ain't getting all that done. So hopefully one of the 4 Buffalo guys is a home run, and they solidify one, if not 2 of those spots, and can start thumping some baseballs. You got a righty in there, you got a lefty in there. Maybe they can do some things. And what better time than to play them every single day when they're 7 under and as far out as they are out? See what they got. Run them out there. The only way you're going to know, Jeff, is to watch them do it.
I asked this last night, and I want to ask it again for those who weren't listening to Blue Jays talk. And if you weren't, I have no idea why you weren't. I can't imagine what you'd be doing. Spencer Horwitz hit his 3rd home run last night. You made an interesting comment in Blue Jays talk, and I asked you, let's just kind of close our eyes. Imagine for a minute you get a full season out of Spencer Horwitz. What can he be in terms of power numbers? Because you've talked about his swing, but what do you see him? I'm not saying this is going to happen because we don't know, but what do you see from Spencer Horwitz that would allow you to project over a full year of him?
Okay, if you just look at what he's done this year, he's hitting 294 off the fastball, he's hitting 294 off the breaking ball, he's hitting 364 off the off-speed pitches. His sweet spot percentage, which that I think is a big deal, because that tells you, the sweet spot on a wooden bat's really small. So to be consistently hitting that almost 40% of the time, 39.6% exactly. MLB average is 33.1%. That'll tell you his eyes are doing some things with that barrel, right? And everything else is sort of connected, which allows him to be A, B, as quick as possible, different quadrants. So we saw that 2-strike home run. It was down and in. Now, that's a sweet spot, right, for a lefty. Little natural uppercut. You just drop it. You get the barrel started. Gravity takes over, but it's actually catching it out front with 2 strikes and getting it in the air to the pull side. What did John come on here and tell us that they wanted him to work on when he was in the minor leagues? Getting the ball in the air to the pull side. You asked me that last night. I just sort of threw this out a little bit. What about 15 homers, 30 RBIs, and somewhere around the 70 RBI mark?
30 doubles.
30 doubles, I'm sorry. 70 RBIs, and somewhere in that consistently with the 294, 294, 364.
You do that, you can play second base for me every day.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I think they're trying to figure out is the bat-to-ball skills. And, now the lefty-on-lefty thing, what's he going to give you with that? So, you probably would have to give him some days off against those really tough lefties.
But maybe that's where Davis Schneider fits in at second base. There you go.
That's my point about when you started scribbling down what you were scribbling there, is this is the golden opportunity, and Buck's talked about this the last couple of nights on the telecast, is why not? I mean, where they're at in the standings, do we really think they're going to make a serious run at this? Probably not. So now it's time to gain a little momentum, see what the kids can do, see if they can handle facing some good teams down the street. You know, August, September is when these really good teams that they're going to be facing or trying to make the playoffs are going to really attack weaknesses. Can they adjust? Can they run produce? I mean, the at-bats are totally different. I mean, Horowitz's at-bats yesterday with runners in scoring position are just the way they set them up, how they pitch them, how they elevate, what they're trying to do with 2 strikes. Like, it's a process. And the only way you learn it is to see it. So, yeah, I mean, what's not to like? Again, it may be a sort of a combination of who he's hitting in front of and what that guy is doing hitting behind him, right? They're afraid to walk that guy. They're going to attack the zone. He knows that. You be shorter and quicker. You look fastball all the time. You adjust everything else because you don't have wasted movement. That will help a ton, too. But how many lefties have they got that can handle the bat that way? I'll give you none. 0. So if you got a guy like this can do it, I mean, that's why it's hard to move him out of the 2-hole.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you said last night after the game you'd love to see Bo hitting the 2-hole. How do you put Bo in front of Vladdy? That's why they separated Bo.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're now all of a sudden with Bo hitting cleanup, push comes to shove. Why would I ever pitch to Vladdy? At least with Springer, I can't believe I'm saying this, but at least with Springer, this Springer, that the 7-game hitting streak with the 12 hits and slugging over 1,000, that Springer, you ain't pitching around Vladdy. But tonight, you pitch around Vladdy. So pick your poison, bud.
We're going to take a break and come back with Jim Callis, but I wanted to deal with this before we scooted. Jose Barrios last night, 5 innings, came out of the game.
60 pitches, 11 slurs. The 11 slurs is weird.
He said afterwards he didn't feel explosive. This is his words. Didn't feel explosive in his delivery and didn't think he was bearing pitches in the zone. Explain that to me.
Yeah, it looks to me like he was not getting extended. I mean, again, when they panned the camera over and he was doing the stretches with the arms and, you know, it looked to me like he was favoring some, again. It just looked to me like he was having trouble.
Well, he was doing that thing where he had balls
and then
in
you
both
look,
hands
you look at the 60 pitches and the slurves, and then you look how he pitched to Alvarez with the first at bat, the 2-1 changeup with the double play, and in the second at bat, he's doubling up on changeups.
3-0 changeups.
Those are slurve counts, and then the 2-0 slurve and the 3-0 or the 2-0 changeup and the 3-0 changeup, the 3-run homer that Alvarez hit. Those are slurve counts. Yeah. Now he'll sprinkle in a changeup, but he ain't doubling up on them and being predictable with them. That's all I know. And for what I saw and what I'm seeing with the slurve pitches, I mean, again, it didn't look like he was injured. He was laughing and cutting up over there with Vladdy. And it looked to me like 1 or 2 times he pointed at Kirk's back and pointed at Vladdy's back like, you know, it's this. Mm-hmm. Why, you know, basically, I'm sure Vladdy said, why are you getting Cabrera loose in the 5th inning with a 7 or 5-run lead? Why are you getting loose?
Yeah, and then they let
And then I think Barrios was explaining this, that, and the other to him. So, you know, hopefully he's okay and get better extension. And bottom line is they scored enough runs to win a game.
Jim Callis is a senior writer at MLB Pipeline. He will join us next. Take a look at the upcoming MLB Draft. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. We'll be joined by Chris Leroux and Jeff Passan in the next hour. Ahead of tonight's game between the Astros and the Blue Jays, 3rd game of a 4-game series.
Yep.
And we'll talk to Chris Leroux about the news just released by the Blue Jays. Jordan Romano has undergone surgery or underwent surgery for an impingement in his elbow. He will not be picking up a baseball for 6 weeks.
It's too bad.
It is. And, you know, obviously that has, I think most of us moved on from Jordan Romano as closer as soon as we found out he was going to see Dr. Meister.
And also, too, if he would have been pitching well, they might have traded him to a good team. He had a chance to win a World Series. Yeah. It's too bad for him.
The MLB Draft is approaching, and wouldn't you know it, as if they need it, the Cleveland Guardians have the first pick overall.
Of course they do.
The rich get richer. Jim Callis, a senior writer with MLB Pipeline, joining us in Blair and Barker. Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always good to talk to you. Always good to see you. Mm-hmm. In this case, you know, quick question. Kevin and I, looking at sort of the list of players, it seems as if there are a lot of middle infielders ranked fairly highly. And I mean, that shouldn't come as a surprise because we saw a team this year, I think the San Diego Padres, basically put a team full of guys who came into the majors as middle infielders, put them out in the field at some point. Is that going to be a continual trend, do you think? Is it natural to say that the best athletes are middle infielders, therefore teams are going to focus on middle infielders a lot of the time?
Yeah, no, I think that's true, Jeff. It's middle infielders, it's center fielders. Our high school list, I'm trying to remember stuff, but I know like the top 7 high school position players on our list are all shortstops. On the college side, there's a couple of second basemen at the top, but there's actually not a lot of middle infield. It's more bats over athleticism on the college side. But yeah, I think you're going to see that in most years, especially on the high school side. Almost all your top high school guys, even if they're going to move to a different position, as soon as they get to pro ball, are often playing shortstop or center field at the high school level.
Jim, is there a can't miss? One name.
Well, Charlie Condon from University of Georgia. And I'm not just saying that as a Georgia alum. His hands are so quick. He's 6'6", and it reminds me, he's right-handed hitter, but reminds me of David Ortiz, the way he's able to pull his hands in so quickly and he just turn on 95-mile-an-hour fastballs. He crushes all kinds of pitching, all types of pitches, all locations in the strike zone. Hit 37 homers this year, which is a record since they toned down the bats. I guess it was 13 years ago now. I think he's the biggest can't-miss guy in this year's draft.
What's the pitching crop like this year?
Just okay. Not the top 2 pitchers in the draft are both college guys. Hagen Smith from Arkansas, and then Chase Burns from Wake Forest. They both set the strikeout per 9 record at the Division I level this year. Trey Savage is a strong number 3 on the college side. There's some good high school pitchers. The top 2 guys are probably Cam Caminiti, who's a cousin of Ken. He's a left-hander from Arizona. And then the guy who's got the best pure stuff on the high school side is a kid named William Schmidt, who's a righty from Louisiana, who's got the best curveball in the draft and also has a fastball up to 98 miles an hour.
Jim, is it all about velocity still, or is it more about the pitching side of it and adding, subtracting? And, you got to be on these good teams. You got to know how to pitch a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody will always tell us, velocity isn't everything. But for the most part, at the top of the draft, you get paid because you have velocity.
Yeah.
And if you're a high school kid, and I can think of some examples of some high school kids in this year's draft who have 3 pitches and throw strikes, but they haven't grown into their bodies yet, and they're sitting around 90 miles an hour, and they're probably going to wind up going to college. So teams say one thing, but then they draft the guys who throw hard, at least at the top of the draft.
I was going to ask you that because analytics have advanced so much now, and teams have pitching labs and things of that nature. But it seems to me that one of the things that really, I don't know if I'd say it's hard to forecast, but when you're looking at a high school pitcher in particular, is how they grow, when they grow, and what they look like when they get to be a finished product. How much does that factor into a team's decision? You've got the raw stuff, and I understand raw stuff is probably a reflection of your athletic abilities and all that, but the teams still look at body type and still look at what a guy looks like physically.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. And especially with the high school guys, it's all about projection because very few of your high school players are physically mature at age 18. They're going to grow. They might get taller. They're certainly going to get stronger. And you have to figure out how all that's going to work. I mean, for the hitters, too, guys get stronger, but sometimes when they get stronger, they slow down some. You like the bigger guys in general, but bigger hitters have longer swings. Bigger pitchers sometimes have trouble repeating their delivery and throwing strikes. So the baseball draft is tough, and that's one reason why. I mean, it's most similar to the hockey draft in that this isn't the NFL, this isn't the NBA where you're drafting guys who are going to step right in. You have to look 4 years down the road.
Jim, is there a certain part of a player's game, because I would assume drafting these guys as high as they want to and giving them as much money as they're going to give them, they want to rush them through the minor league system, right? I mean, they don't want them to spend a bunch of time at their minor league level. Is there a certain thing that they really hone in on? I know it's the athleticism of the middle infielder, the move side to side, the arm strength, all that thing. Is there something else that would go into, if we could just look at that, we see that, everything else will fall in place? Is there something that they really hone in on?
Well, I think one of the things I hone in on, especially if you're looking at how quickly a guy's going to advance, is control the strike zone, whether you're a hitter or a pitcher. You can have good stuff, but and it's not just throwing strikes, it's being able to locate it in the strike zone. I mean, we've all seen countless examples of guys who throw hard but can't throw strikes, or guys who have good stuff, but it gets hit because they don't locate it well. And it's the same thing for hitters. You could be fast and big and strong, and you can have a great arm and play great defense. But if you're chasing pitches and you're not swinging at strikes, you're not swinging at strikes in the area of strike zone where you can do the most damage, that catches up to you. So I think they look at that. And again, that's another reason it's hard on the high school pitchers, because at least with the college players, in summer ball, you have you can assign some meaning to the stats. A guy doing something in the SEC means more than doing it in, say, the Big South Conference. But you could still look, and then maybe you could see how the guy did in the Cape Cod League or some summer league. High school, you kind of look at showcase circuit numbers, because like if you're a good high school player, you're getting walked. Nobody's pitching to you during the season. But then on the showcase circuit, you're seeing a lot of guys usually going 1 or 2 inning outings. So it's guys maxing out. It's not the biggest judge. So that's just another reason I think the high school guys are more difficult to figure out.
Has the changes we're seeing in the minor league system throughout baseball, the transition, fewer teams, things of that nature, has that changed the way teams approach the draft? Because it seems to me that if we operate under the assumption that the minor leagues are in flux, that has to impact how you develop players, which I would think would impact how you look at a player in the draft. Or am I overthinking this a little bit?
No, you're right. I mean, there used to be an expression in baseball, well, there still is, about like a high school player, and they'll call him a 2-year rookie ball guy, a guy who's really raw, and he's going to need 2 years at the complex league before he's ready for full season ball. Well, now that you have a 165-man limit for domestic rosters, you don't really want the 2-year rookie ball guy. Like, it has to be a guy with a really high ceiling that you're going to take a high school player who's that raw, because the spots are precious. Similarly, not that, I mean, when you're in the back half of the draft, rounds 11 through 20, it's guys who do some things well, but obviously have flaws, or they go higher. Those guys have a shorter leash. If my 15th rounder from 2022 isn't producing here in 2024, he might be out the door when I sign 15 or 18 guys out of this year's draft, and I need 18 spots on my domestic rosters for them. So I think in general, to maybe overgeneralize a little bit, you're looking for guys who can develop or move a little quicker. You don't have the luxury of as much patience as you did before they cut down the minor leagues, reduce teams, reduce rosters. You need your guys to develop a little bit more quickly, because you can't just stockpile them like you could in the past.
Jack Callahan, do you when he is drafted, what will the acquiring team do with him? The two-way guy.
If they're smart, he should 100% be a hitter. The two-way stuff is way too hard. I know I joke, Shohei Ohtani is like the greatest baseball player of all time, or most talented baseball player of all time, and he makes it look easy. This isn't easy. I mean, you guys know this. When you're a pitcher, you're a starter, you're not just pitching every 5th day. You're working those other 4 days to get ready to pitch the 5th day. And if you're a two-way guy, you can't do that. And, similarly, if you need to make adjustments as a hitter, you're doing all your pitching stuff. So it's way too hard to do both. He throws hard, but he's a much better prospect as a hitter. I don't know if you guys watched his last game in the College World Series. He was throwing 87, 88 miles an hour, and then he came out, and then he was doing this, rubbing his forearm. Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to play a doctor on Sportsnet, but the arm didn't look too good. And so anyway, but he's got a much higher ceiling. He's intriguing as he was a pitcher only, he'd be a top 50 pick. As a hitter, he's going to be a top 5 pick. And I just think you maximize the value. I'd rather him focusing on becoming a 35 to 40 home run guy than trying to do both. It's just too hard. And really, the only reason Shohei got to do it is he wouldn't have come over here if he didn't get the opportunity.
Right.
Like, it's just way too hard. And I think he kind of knows what's coming. And we had him on our podcast, and he's amenable to whatever the team wants. So, I mean, it's kind of cool to think about, but don't mess around. Just let the guy hit his 35, 40 homers a year as a hitter.
Yeah. Jim, really good of you to do this as always. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, always good talking to you guys. Take care.
Take care. Jim Callis, a senior writer with MLB Pipeline. You can follow him on Twitter at Jim Callis MLB, and really don't need to go anyplace else to look for
He's the best.
An update and keep track of the draft. That is fascinating. It's just I wondered how often or how all the changes we're seeing with the number of minor league teams is going to impact development. And I think, as Jim said, it's you got to fast track guys now. Like the idea that a dude is going to stay in the minors for 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think it's a process anymore, right? I think they throw so much money into the main guys, and they know who those guys are that they think are not, that can't miss, and it's going to help a big league team sooner than later. I think you got to hurry up, see if they can hit a heat or not.
There was a ton of news today involving the Toronto Blue Jays, obviously with Jordan Romano, the lineup. And John Schneider just completed his media availability. We're going to go to it right now. This is John Schneider, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, earlier today.
John, an update on Jordan Romano.
Yeah, Jordy, he had right elbow impingement. He had a successful scope on that elbow today with Dr. Meister, and he'll be down from throwing for at least 6 weeks.
Disappointing,
yeah.
Obviously. What does that mean for the bullpen, and who's really got to step up now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Chad kind of, falls into that role like he did last night. And you need outings like you did yesterday from Nate, whether it's Nate, Trevor, Zach Pop. It's kind of a combination of everyone, really. And depending on lineup, we got Cabby and Little. It's going to be a collective effort with a few guys, I think, between Trev, Chad, and Nate really stepping up.
Update on Jimmy Garcia.
Yeah, side today, hoping that goes well, and about 20-25 pitches. And from there, kind of make a decision as to what the next step will be for him. Hopefully that's a rehab outing. He's probably going to need at least one of those before he gets back with us. But we'll know tomorrow kind of how he feels after today's work and how he feels tomorrow.
What about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. makes him an all-star?
Oh, man, a lot. You look at his, just his year. You look at his, how he's viewed around the league, his last couple weeks for sure. But I think that, Vladdy, we know how we think of Vladdy as an organization. I know how I do as a manager, and I think he's understanding how teams view him around the league. And I think he's firmly put himself in the category of, one of the premier players in the league. And hopefully it works out for him. He gets to be a starter again. We'll see how that goes, but I think he's a very deserving all-star, probably going to be multiple times over the course of his career.
When can fans expect to see Leo Jimenez?
Probably tomorrow with Framber on the mound for them. Again, after that, I don't think we're going to be targeting, strict right-left matchups. Want to see what he can do, see how he adjusts to the speed of the game at this level. And just trying to get him, in the right spot for that first game.
Tell us about the thinking, first two spots in today's starting lineup.
Yeah, I think with George, it's something that I definitely wanted to do over the course of the season, get him back at the top or near the top of the order. What he's been doing, I think, the last 2 weeks, 10 days, has been pretty self-explanatory in the batter's box, and we need him to kind of continue to be that kind of player that he has been his whole career. And then with Spence, I think his at-bats have been so consistent, and his approach, his ability to adjust to what a pitcher's doing, not in a rush. I love how he sees pitches and knows when to be aggressive when he needs to be aggressive. So that was kind of the thinking. Bo in the 4, I think, again, I've said, and I will continue to say that you want Bo Bichette up with guys on base. His career numbers speak for themselves, and hopefully that can kind of start to turn tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ruts that players get into. He gets it. We get it. I think that he's taking good swings. He's missing pitches that he was hitting early in the year, whether he's swinging through them or fouling them back. Again, with Varsh, it kind of comes down to him understanding where he hits the ball well, where he hits the ball hard, and I think he's doing a good job of being aware of that. It's just the pitches that he's swinging at. He's not doing much with them right now. So. It happens. It happens to everyone throughout the course of the season. It's a long season. But we need Varsh to kind of get going a little bit.
Just coming back on George, like we were saying, you need him to do that day in, day out? Is it just like he's in his own thing right now, or?
Yeah, I mean, he's been working his ass off really behind the scenes that not everyone gets to see. A few mechanical adjustments, but we're not asking for a 3-run homer every single night. It'd be great if he could do that. But yeah, I think when you're that type of player, there's all sorts of thoughts and things that creep into your mind. When you're not going well, and that bleeds into the next day and the next day. I think he's done a great job of kind of stopping that and separating that. And, just as hitters, if you're talking about Varsh or George and go through a rough spot, a rough spell, he's kind of in the exact opposite right now. So excited to see him back up there.
Just a word or two on Spencer on the second bag. How do you like, what is he doing on defense that you're really liking right now?
Man, he's been, I've said it before, pleasantly surprising, with the adjustments that he's been able to make. And again, I think every game brings an opportunity for him to learn something. If it's communication, a pop-up, positioning, he's really picking it up pretty quickly. So it's credit to him. It's credit to Casey and Donnie Murphy in AAA for the work that they did with him there, and Carlos here with him. It's not easy to do, just to kind of go from one spot to another. He's been doing a great job.
Well, Kikuchi's facing the Astros today, and last time was I guess it's like a Seattle.
Yeah.
So what's the strategy?
I mean, he's a totally different pitcher than he was then, and as opposed to now, it's a dangerous lineup. I mean, you look at the top three, especially. That's about as good as they come between Altuve, Bregman, and Alvarez. So he's going to have to execute. I think with his arsenal being different, from last time they saw him, that's a good thing. And when he's landing his breaking ball, he's going to be good. That's I say that every day or every time he pitches about him. So. He's going to need to locate. These guys, they're really good at hunting specific pitches in specific areas. So being a little bit unpredictable, too, is going to be key.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, John Schneider. So lots to cover. Chris Leroux joins us in a few minutes as well. Jordan Romano's had surgery. He won't pick up a ball for 6 weeks. George Springer is in the leadoff spot where he was earlier this year for most of the year. 90% of the year before the Jays moved him out. He started hitting. Now they're putting him back in there. And Bo Bichette cleaning up.
Yeah, okay, Bo Bichette thing. I looked it up when I was hearing John talk there. That's excellent. There's not a ton of managers that will get it that in depth with what's going on and why he's moving people around. The base is empty. Bo Bichette's hitting 179. Scoring position, he's hitting 356. So maybe me coming on here saying this is the dumbest lineup I've ever seen in the history of the Blue Jays, maybe might have been wrong about this, but
really,
I want to say this.
I go out and buy a lottery ticket if you're wrong.
Well, it is
usually it's me that's wrong.
Yeah, look, I don't think right now there's a right place to put Bo. I will say that. I think they're searching a little bit. I just know this: push comes to shove, who you pitching to, Bo or Vladdy?
Yeah. Oh,
basically, it's more important about the two dudes in front of Vladdy than the guy behind Vladdy. So, if you want to keep Vladdy in the game, Bo may not be the guy to do it with. That's the point. So, you better hope that Springer and Horowitz are getting on base. That forces that guy to have to pitch to Vladdy. Because if not, you just...
Or also maybe it just comes down to simply that right now, and this is a team trying to win games by any means, maybe you want right now the way he's swinging, you want Springer to have the extra bat. You don't want Bo to have the extra bat, maybe. But, man, it does seem as if, we probably won't know the answer until Bo leaves the Blue Jays.
Yep.
But it certainly does seem as if they're not afraid to. There are rules for some players, and then there are rules for Bo Bichette.
They ain't asking permission.
No.
It doesn't seem like.
Chris Leroux will join us next. We'll take a deeper dive into what Jordan Romano may face coming back from surgery. Jeff Passan as well. The Tampa Bay Rays made a trade today. Does that mean the trade market is now officially open? We'll find out. We'll get you set for tonight's game. All that ahead. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Sportsnet. Hey, welcome back to Blair and Barker. Just ahead of tonight's third game between the Houston Astros and the Jays, 7:07.
Yep.
First pitch at the Rogers Center. Oh, the Blue Jays have just made some roster moves. Just see. This was Stuart Baroa has been recalled from AAA Buffalo. He'll be active for tonight's game. Justin Turner's been placed on the paternity list. So there you go.
Yeah. Wish him the best.
Wish him the best. Yep. Justin Turner on the paternity list. Danny Jansen He will be back with the team.
Mm-hmm.
His wife had their child, so there you go.
Yeah.
Life continues, even for Major League ball players. Life continues.
You know what would be interesting? If Turner was back, what do they do with Bo?
Well, that's a great point, Kev. Right now, today's lineup, Springer, Horwitz, this is what we're talking about. Springer, Horwitz, Guerrero, Bichette, Varsho, Schneider, Clement, Barger, Brian Servin, who is up here because Danny Jansen will be back tomorrow from paternity leave. And Bo Bichette hitting fourth. And that's an interesting point. Kevin, I wonder if maybe that isn't part of the reason for moving Springer into the leadoff spot right now, because you've got that.
Yanking that Band-Aid right on off, ain't they, Jeff? Boy.
Using the same Band-Aid. It's like, when you take it off and you put it back on.
Yeah. You put that little salt on it.
Yeah. After a while, it gets a little crazy around the edges.
More.
Bring in Chris Leroux. He's our Blue Jays radio analyst on Sportsnet.
There he is.
Hey. Usually there's somebody sitting behind him in the ballpark. That's usually my seat when I'm there.
This is where you guys normally sit, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's normally where we make all those funny motions behind your head. You had your TJ surgery when you were a senior in college?
So I was going into my junior year when I had my Tommy John. Yeah.
Now, this is Jordan Romano. This isn't the same thing as Tommy John surgery, but Kevin hasn't pitched and hasn't undergone this. Explain to me when we hear that Jordan Romano will be able to pick up a baseball in 6 weeks and begin a throwing program. Just walk us through what that means for a pitcher, because at some point you got to air it out. And I've always wondered about guys coming back from surgery. Like, as a human being, you'd be sitting there just wondering what's going to happen, wouldn't you?
So I guess the mentality for a pitcher coming back from any surgery, whether it's minor or major, they're always going to be tentative. Every single pain, every single thing you feel, you kind of question whether or not the surgery went well or whether you'll have to repeat the surgery. It's a scary process for pitchers. I don't know if it's the same for position players when they're coming back from an ACL, when they're coming back from something major. But it's the scariest thing when the very first time you air out that baseball for the first time at 120 feet, and you feel almost like the stretch of the ligament or the stretch of your arm, and you're wondering, did I just do it again? Did I just tear the ligament? Did the impingement, did the sutures tear? Something like that. And I think every guy is different. I personally went through a very good rehab process where I didn't have any setbacks. I didn't have any pain in the elbow, in the shoulder, anything like that. But I've heard some horror stories where guys are coming back and they feel even the smallest ache and they get shut down for 2 weeks, no throw, and they have to pick it back up again with that in the back of their mind, that pain that they felt. Is that going to happen again? Is it something serious? And that's just something that it's just very, very scary. I mean, that's just really the only word that you can use when thinking about the rehab process, coming back from something even minor or major.
Chris, do you think we ever see Jordan close out a game for the Blue Jays again?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
You do?
I think that's an easy answer. Yes, I think when he comes back, and do I think he'll come back this year? Absolutely not. He's not going to come back. He's going to be no throw for 6 weeks, and then he'll probably do a progression for, I would imagine, 6 weeks. What does that take us to? Middle of September? Beginning of September? I don't think they'll rush him back. I think that he's done for the season, regardless of how the Blue Jays do, if they make the playoffs or not. I think he's done for the season. And if I know Jordan, and I don't know him that well, but I think he's going to err on the side of caution and not really push it, just because he's been shut down twice this season already. I think the most important thing for him and his career going forward is being healthy. And I'd like to get your answer on that. I'm wondering why you're so confident that he's not going to close for the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm not confident in that, but I would think because of the way we saw Hicks come in last year and at the end of the season pitched the parts of the game that he pitched, they basically told us without telling us that they were not very comfortable with Jordan pitching in some games against some teams that mattered the most. And I would think if you had a golden opportunity to make a change at that ninth inning, guy, what better time to do that than right now? I'm not saying Jordan wouldn't be a part of your bullpen next year, but I'm saying, like, if you want to bring in that no-brainer guy like that, you know, where for sure that thing is over. Because let's be honest, with Jordan, that's always not the case, right? With the abusing of the slider and the moodiness of the velocity, like, it was sometimes there's some unknowns there. That was my point. I'm not saying that he hasn't had a good career doing it, but I'm saying if you ever wanted an excuse to sort of move on from that ninth inning of Jordan Romano, right now would be the time.
I mean, I really couldn't disagree with you more. You know, I value your opinion and I agree with you most often, but I couldn't disagree with you more. I think Jordan is a very, I don't want to say reliable, especially because of his track record this season, but I think that if he tries to throw his breaking balls as often as he's been throwing them, he won't be an effective closer. I just truly think that. I think you need to establish the fastball, especially when you're throwing 98, 99 like he does. If he gets away from falling in love with that off-speed pitch like he has shown in the past, I think that he'll be a lot more effective. If he can throw that fastball down in the zone for strike number one and then throw the breaking ball, I think he's going to be a valuable closer and a very good closer for this team. But I think that's probably the problem. He's just fallen in love with that off-speed pitch. We've seen not so much this year, but last year he threw 9, 10, 11, 12 breaking balls in a row. And that's just something that's not conducive to being a successful closer. I can't tell you a closer that I can remember that has thrown 12 breaking balls in a row without throwing a fastball. I think that the most important thing when coming into a ball game is to establish that fastball. You pound that fastball down in the zone, you throw it for strike one, and then you can go to work. And I think that's his problem. I think that's what you're seeing. You're seeing this guy that's tentative, and he's throwing breaking balls far too often. And I think that's his problem. And I don't know. I couldn't disagree with you more. And I truly do believe that Jordan Romano will come back from this. And if he learns to throw that fastball, strike one, pound it down in the zone, he'll be much better off. And I know you agree with me on that one.
That's fair, yeah.
Hey, Chris, in terms of his delivery, how does anything have to change when he comes back from that delivery? Because it's not the classic delivery, right?
It's not classic, but I mean, when he's at his best, he has a ton of tilt on that fastball. We've seen it. He kind of gets on the side of that fastball sometimes when he's not throwing strikes. When he's not throwing strike one, he'll get on the side of the fastball, and you'll see the fastball arm side, and then you'll try to overcompensate and pull one off, and he'll throw a glove side in the dirt. We've seen that a lot, not only this season, but even when he was good. I think that when he is on, he's got a ton of downward angle on that fastball. If he can find the happy medium between being on the side of it and getting on top of it, throwing that downward fastball at 98 miles an hour, I think he's going to be one of the best. And I truly believe that. And I'm not saying that just because I know him, just because he's Canadian, just because he plays for the Blue Jays. I truly believe he has plus stuff. If he can figure out how to throw that fastball at the angle that I've seen before, it's usually, 50% of the time he'll throw that good fastball with really good tilt, really good angle, almost like a Tyler Glasnow type of downward action or downward tilt fastball. If he can do that, if he can find that feeling and find that release point, staying on top of the baseball, I truly believe he's going to be one of the best. And he's already shown that for the most part, he's one of the best closers in the game. And like I said, Kev, I hate disagreeing with you, but I truly believe that he's going to find it. If he stays healthy, he's going to find it, and he's going to be good for 3, 4, 5 more years.
Okay.
There's only one of us here who gets to disagree with Barker. You know that. And now I've got to agree with him for the rest of the show. And it's going to really, you basically screwed my whole show.
Well, you're a former pitcher. You know more about pitching than I do, so I'll take your word for it. Well, you say,
but you know baseball though. You know pitching. You know when guys are good, when they're not. You might not know exactly why that Jordan Romano is not throwing strikes. And hey, I'm not saying that I know why he's so erratic with his fastball and with his command. But I'm just saying, if he can find it, if he can work with Pete Walker, if he can work whoever his pitching coach going forward is, whether it's with the Blue Jays or whether it's with the Dodgers, who knows? But if he can find that release point and get on top of that baseball, he'll be great.
Yeah, I think the organization has a lot to do too, other than going out and trying to find a new closer. So it's baby steps. With Yusei Kikuchi tonight, I'm going to read you two things, and I want you to tell me which one you're most worried about. He's allowed 5 homers in his last 3 starts. Okay. He's 1-5 with a 6.27 ERA in 13 starts versus the Astros. Which one of those two, if you're him, are you most worried about?
Oh, I'm not worried about how he's done against this Astros team or whatever team. I think that each game is separate from the last game. So I'm not worried about his numbers specifically against the Astros. I am worried about him throwing a lot of pitches over the plate, though. A lot of pitches, very hittable pitches. Early on in the season, he was basically unhittable. You saw the fastball at 97, 98, and I've heard you talk about this a lot. You just don't find that very often with left-handed starters. You can't. I don't know what you say specifically. They don't grow on trees.
That's
Is that what you say?
Bam.
Yeah. So
you nailed it.
I've listened to you a couple of times on the way home. But,
I appreciate it.
But arms like Yusei Kikuchi's, they don't grow on trees, to steal a phrase from you. But at the same time, you have to throw quality strikes. You can't just throw that 97-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle and expect that Yordan Alvarez is going to swing through it. These are big league hitters. They know how to hit a straight fastball. Specifically, Yusei Kikuchi has that more often than not, that very straight fastball. So if he's not throwing his breaking balls for strikes, if he's not throwing that slider for strikes, that back foot slider that we've seen it be so good in the past, and specifically this season, his fastball becomes very hittable. And I know you know this, Kevin, from being a hitter, is it doesn't matter how hard a guy throws. If he's throwing a ball belt high down the middle, it is going to get absolutely crushed by who's ever up there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's up there. If you can't throw your breaking ball for strikes, if you can't specifically throw strike one, I know I've mentioned that a few times today, but if you can't throw strike one, good luck. Good luck specifically against the Houston Astros. They have an incredible lineup. If you can't throw strike one, it's going to be a long, long night.
Yep.
Chris, appreciate your time, man. Rest the pipes. We look forward to your call tonight.
Way to go, buddy.
See you guys. Right there. This is where Blair's going to be.
That's it.
Take care, man.
See you guys. See you.
Chris Leroux, Blue Jays radio analyst on Sportsnet. Interesting thoughts on Jordan Romano, and I think, Chris is right about one thing. We talked about this a lot, look, I understand that once you get in the game and once you're competing and you're looking at the catcher and you're trying to get in the same page and all that, it's always, after watching Jordan Romano as much as we have, doesn't it strike you as odd that I still don't know about his fastball? You know what I mean? I still don't know if it's good enough.
Yeah, I think closers are basically like picking a Hall of Famer. I think you sort of know. That's right, yes. I think you sort of know. I'll give you a hypothetical. Top of the order against the Phillies, Game 7, you're up a run. Jordan Romano's the guy you won't give him the ball to in the 9th inning on the road. The answer, if you have to think about it, the answer is no. So that's the thing you got to ask yourself. I'm not saying that Jordan has not had a really good career. That's a fact. That's a fact, and he won't continue to be the Jordan that we all love. I'm just saying that it might be nice. This might be a nice little opportunity for you because there is some unknowns of what you're going to get from him going forward, that if you had an opportunity to bring in somebody that you think is more of a no-brainer, bing, bang, boom.
This is great timing. We're talking about Jordan Romano, the Blue Jays Canadian closer, and tonight Éric Gagné will get to throw out the honorary first pitch. The Dodgers match up against the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is the 20th anniversary of Éric Gagné recording his 84th consecutive save, which, no surprise, still stands as the longest consecutive save streak in MLB history, and I'm willing to bet we'll be talking about that standing as the longest streak for a few more years. We're very pleased to be joined from L.A. by Éric Gagné. Éric, thanks so much for joining us today, man. Great to see you. Great to hear from you. Should be a lot of fun tonight. You know, Kevin and I were talking yesterday. We were going through your baseball reference page, and we were looking at 3 consecutive years of 82 and a third innings, and we were sitting here saying, how do you think a manager would use Éric Gagné now, given the way the game's gone? How do you think you would be used now at the height of your career?
I think it's changed a lot, I think, but the value, to be honest, for me as a reliever, it's how Jim Tracy used me. And, it was 82 and a third for 3 years in a row, but I knew exactly what situation I was coming in. So, we all know we're all creatures of habit. So to me, they really put me in a perfect situation for me to actually be able to succeed. So I don't know how they would use me now. I don't think it changed a lot. I think it's the same idea that it's hard to get the last 3 outs, the last 6 outs. We all know how valuable those are. So I don't know. I mean, I think with the changes now, it's a little bit different. You approach the 9th inning a little bit differently when you're home or away. So it's I don't know how they would use me, but my job was to get 3 outs, and I tried to do that the best I could.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I asked that too, because I know that you had a lot of games where you would have multiple. You get 4 or 5 outs, but I was also thinking about with the ghost runner rule now that they have, just how much that would factor in. Into a closer's mentality. Do you like the game the way it is now? Do you like watching it?
Yeah, I do. I actually do. I mean, at first, I'm a purist. I'm an old school type of baseball. I love the history of the game. I'm from Montreal, so there's a lot of history with the Dodgers there. But I like it. At first, I didn't care much about many changes because I think baseball is so beautiful as is. But I understand why they did that. And I think the changes now, they don't bug me as much. Of course, like back in the days when they did with NHL, they did the same thing. They took the red line out. Everybody thought it was going to be the end of that sport. And then, it's gotten bigger and bigger. So there's always going to be changes in the game. I think what you're trying to do is try to get ahead of it, try to make sure you have the best product on the field, best product for the fans. And I think that's what they're trying to accomplish. So I don't like to see the clock. I think the game is fast enough now that we don't need to see it. I just don't like that you can bet on pitch clock violation. I don't like that. So I think for me, it's kind of, I know why they did it, but I think they've accomplished that. So hopefully the next changes come into where it's just really to get the fans more involved, get the fans, better product for them, because hopefully they need that. I think the sports need to move forward, whether it's new changes, new technology, new data, all that fun stuff that's coming in. It's pretty interesting. So you have to do changes. So I think MLB tried to adjust.
Éric, we talked about Jordan Romano and going through the injury now and being the 9th inning guy. And I know you've went through an injury before. What's the toughest thing as a pitcher coming back? Just the unknown. What did you go through mentally, physically? Did you think you had to change things? What's the process with that going through it as a pitcher?
Well, first of all, as a closer, you feel like you're letting your whole team down. That's the main thing, because as a closer, we feel like we're the anchor in the back of the bullpen. We feel like, we're trying to get 3 or 4 outs. Hopefully there's 3 outs. Everything goes well. 3 outs or 3-run lead. Those are the easier ones. But, you just take responsibility. I think it's our job to get those last outs. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating because you want to do it. You can physically do it, but it doesn't happen. You're trying to push it too hard, being patient. And especially as a closer, I mean, we fuel on emotions. We fuel on going out there, the adrenaline. So it's very hard. And I feel the guys that are hurt because, I was hurt the last 3 or 4 years of my career. Was no fun. And just enjoy it when you're healthy. To enjoy it because it's very hard to be healthy, to be hurt and trying to help your team, getting paid and everything else. It's a bad place to be.
Yeah. What's the biggest hurdle when you come back in terms of a mental or physical hurdle? I mean, we had Chris Leroux on, and he was talking about that first time you air it out and you kind of feel the ligament stretch, right? And you wonder, okay, did it stretch it too much? What's the biggest hurdle when you come back from that?
It's mentally. It's just to trust it. It's to trust. Like the biggest thing I've heard from Dr. Job when he gave me that surgery, the first one, it's like you just got to go out there and almost try to break it again. And that's almost mentally. That's how you got to get over it. It's very difficult. It's not easy because your brain is telling you, hey, he's afraid to get hurt. So mentally, it's very difficult. That's why, like, I think guys that go through Tommy John for a year or two, they come back and have to do it again just because you push it too hard when you're at 80%. So it's very, very hard to do. But I think mentally is the hardest thing. Stay strong, still believe in it, and really go through the process and don't push it. It's hard to not push it because we all have a huge ego. So it's hard to go out there and just just listen to the doctors. And it's very hard to do, but that's what you have to do. You have to trust them because they understand what you're going through. They've done that many, many times. And for us, it's our first time or second time. So it's very hard mentally.
Éric, you've seen Ohtani close and up and personal. What's your impressions? What do you think of him? What do you think of that try? Now, obviously, he's not doing the pitching side of it, but what do you just think of him first impressions when you walk up, shake his hand if you have done that, and seeing him offensively hit balls to the moon?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that I'm able to see a type of player like this in my time. I mean, I never thought that someone could do that. I thought they're crazy. I thought it was going to be a couple of years and get hurt. Of course, he got hurt, but the way he dominated is just unbelievable. And hopefully people watch and learn how he trains, how he eats, what he does really to get ready, because that's pretty impressive. Because I've never seen, for me, just to put my body back together after every after 14, 15 pitches and put it back together the next day, for him to do the same thing over and over, it's I don't understand it. I mean, I've tried to do that right now. I'm retired. I have perfect time, perfect food, perfect everything. And I can barely do it. For him to do it at major league level, to perform the way he performs and to dominate, it's unbelievable. I hope people enjoy it because everybody's going to start critiquing this and that.
Yeah.
Put the money, the price tag on it. I'm like, you'll never see someone again ever in your lifetime. So I wish people could just enjoy that because it's beautiful to watch. And I'm gonna finally see him and hear him hit balls and hear what this sounds like because I've never seen him alive. So it's gonna be impressive.
Okay, you in your prime, bases loaded. Here he comes. Take me through it. What are you throwing him?
Bases loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna go fastball down and away every time. When in doubt, fastball down and away. You ask a good located fastball. Hopefully, it's mid-90s. But right now, it'll probably be 83, 84. So I'd stay even more away and a little more low. So I think that's what I would go in and change ups. Try to get ahead early and just try to change up, make him get on his front foot, and try to see how he's going to react. And if I get to 0-2, bust him up and in, and hopefully I can strike him out.
Oh, it's called pitching. Not too bad.
Éric, we had Joe Madden on, I think it was a couple of years ago, and he was talking about Ohtani, and we're having this discussion about at some point, do you have to make a decision? You're going to pitch or you're going to hit. And Joe, being Joe, said, what if he wants to close?
Yeah.
And hit. Could you, again, having done that, could you see that?
Yes, way more than just starting is very difficult. You're breaking down your body you're literally hanging on by a thread every 5 days. You have to put your body back together. I think it would be maybe more manageable for him to close. I think I could see that. Even if it's we have 4 days out of the week that you're going to be our closer. Mm-hmm. And when those days are perfectly lined up, then, okay, we have a bullpen by committee if you go one day. After that, they already do bullpen starting stuff. So I think they could do that. I think it'd be a lot easier on his body, and because just the fact that we can keep him on the field as long as we can as an industry is what the industry needs to focus on. That's why you guys talk about how to coach him. You know what I mean? How do you coach a guy like this? Because he's a natural treasure for baseball. Mm. And you got to say, hey, you got to trust the guy. He understands how he feels. You can't tell him how he feels. So, being Joe Madden to coach him the first couple of years, it must have been really, really difficult because you got to just watch him and say, hey, it's all you. It's on your own because no one's ever done that before. So you got to take notes. You got to really listen to how he feels, really try to communicate with him. And those are little variables that are not, you can't quantify that. It's just basically, habits and how does the guy feel, make sure that he's got everything he needs and let him go because it's beautiful to watch.
Okay, you're throwing out the first pitch. Have you practiced this? Are you worried about it? I tried to do this once and I overthrew it. It was basically what happened. You lollygagging it and just flopping it in there. That's not the easiest thing to do. And by the way, me and Jeff have had this conversation. Jeff would say he's standing in front of the mound. Now, you're not going to do that, right? You're going to go and stand on the rubber. Have you been practicing this? What do you think? How's it going to go tonight?
I don't need to practice.
No?
It's in my head. I got it. I've already visualized it. I'm good. I've been throwing a little bit. I've been working out a little bit, so I should be fine. I'll be throwing around the zone for sure.
That's awesome.
Are you going to get the music? You're going to have the music and everything?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. They're probably going to get me an extra 2 or 3 miles an hour if they throw the music on, but we'll see.
That's pretty cool.
Eric, listen, we appreciate
It's going to be amazing.
It is. It's going to be fun. Listen, congratulations. Have a lot of fun tonight. We really appreciate you joining us.
We appreciate
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Be well. That is Éric Gagné, 2003 NL Cy Young winner. He's host of Game Over, and you can check it out on YouTube in both French and English. You can follow him on Twitter at Éric Gagné 38. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah.
That was a great question about pitching Ohtani.
Yeah. I mean, how would you do?
Éric Gagné
It's down and away. I mean, he's got a natural uppercut. You know, not a lot of people would say pitch him down and away because of the natural left-handed uppercut. You know, that's a no-no nowadays. No, don't do that. Right? It's the elevated heater it's the crowding. It's the even elevated two-seamer, right?
But isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
See, I've thought all along with Shohei Ohtani that he was if you wanted to maximize him.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him as a closer?
I don't know. I think it's the heart rate part of it. I think it's the controlling that.
I think
that's how you get hurt. Like, you have to be real. How would you hit him in the game, run him down there and have him close? Like, what if he's got a hit in the 9th inning? Like, there's so many things that would go into trying to figure that out, and the heart rate and routines, and good luck.
Let me ask you this. If we're led to believe he is going to, at some point, he's going to start pitching this year. Not in games, he's going to start pitching.
Yeah.
World Series. You're in kind of a funky situation. You're the Dodgers. Do you risk it?
No. I mean, you got years left of seeing them start, and I mean, you're the Dodgers. If you don't got a dude to pitch the 8th inning, you should fire everybody. Like, let's be honest.
That is a great point.
Let's not lie.
That's a very good point.
He's probably going to pitch with the lead. So if you ain't got a dude in the bullpen to pitch with the lead,
I'm just thinking.
Eliminate the Dodgers front office. That's what you do. Okay.
Jeff Passan is ESPN's MLB insider. He'll join us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. It'll be Ronel Blanco on the mound for the Houston Astros. You remember what he did to the Blue Jays the last time?
No, what, Jeff? I don't remember.
Do we even need to mention?
Well, Bo wasn't in the lineup, I don't think, either, was he?
I'm just looking at that lineup. They threw a no-hitter. It was Springer, Guerrero, Turner, Varsho, Kirk, Clement, Kiermaier, IKF, and Biggio.
Bo had tweaked something, I think.
Huh?
He had tweaked something. Wasn't playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
because we were trying to make excuses for the Blue Jays and saying if Bo was in the lineup, that would have never happened.
I know some of us were not.
That's what I said.
I was not.
You didn't say that?
I don't remember that.
Oh, you did?
I mean,
I'm sure you said it.
I do remember saying, and it is true, I've covered a couple of perfect games, and I've covered like 8 no-hitters.
Yeah.
Never seen an easier no-hitter / perfect game in my life as the one Ronel Blanco threw. I mean, literally, it looked like it was
sitting
like
in a rocking chair, throwing change-up after change-up.
Yeah. I've just never seen a no-hitter that looked as effortless, where there was really no point of drama or anything like that. No, not even and when I mean drama, not even a dramatic count, really. It's just, another out. Anyhow, let's bring in Jeff Passan, ESPN's MLB insider. Mr. Passan, how are you, sir?
Have you seen multiple perfect games in person?
I covered Dennis Martinez's game against the Dodgers. And I covered David Wells' perfect game David Cohn's perfect game at Yankee Stadium against the Expos. And that was a day that they had, it was Old Timers Day at Yankee Stadium, and they had Larson throwing out the pitch to Yogi Berra.
Oh, that's so cool.
And you know what?
I've only had one no-hitter, one real no-hitter. I saw a combined no-hitter in the stands. I don't count that, though.
Yeah, I mean, I also covered a game where Pedro lost a perfect game in the 10th inning. Bip Roberts sailed off him. But the coolest thing, I'll get to the questions in a minute. The coolest thing about the Cohn perfect game, of course, because we all know David Cohn, is it's great when somebody understands the magnitude of the moment, right? David Cohn understood what he did, where he did it, and who was in the stands. And of course, they brought him. They brought all of them in. They brought him into the news conference. It was just great. But yeah,
that's right.
Talking about Ronald Blanco, I mean, that was just. I remember telling Barker, I think in the fourth inning, this dude's going to throw a no-hitter because, I mean, they're just not. There's nothing.
Not even. You know what though? That's to me, that's the beauty of no-hitters and perfect games. You can be uncompetitive for 8 2/3 innings.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one mistake or one really good at bat, and suddenly a perfect game is perfect no longer. A no-hitter is no longer hitless.
So explain the Aaron Savali trade to me. I mean, the Rays aren't, they're not out of it as much as the Jays are out of it. They trade a starting pitcher for, a middle infielder. And as Barker and I said, I'm sure 3 years down the road, that middle infielder will be starting in the All-Star game. But on all that aside, explain their thinking here. And does this indicate anything about the trade market? Or is this just kind of one of those Rays things?
No, I think it's a perfectly rational trade, actually, because in Aaron Savali, you're looking at a guy who, because of his performance, they had reason to potentially bump out of the rotation once Shane Baz was ready, and Shane Baz has been pitching pretty well recently down in AAA. Aaron Savali is also going to cost a decent chunk of change as a third-time eligible arbitration player next season, and chunks of change tend not to align particularly well with the Rays' philosophy. But beyond that, the Rays don't just have Shane Baz. Jeffrey Springs is throwing rehab games down in the minor leagues, and I don't know if you remember the start he got off to last year, but he was absolutely phenomenal. And next season, they've also got Shane McClanahan coming back from Tommy John surgery, and Drew Rasmussen coming back from elbow surgery as well. So all of a sudden, the Rays have like this surfeit of starting pitching. And, one area where they aren't quite as strong is lower minor league infield depth. And when you're a team, Jeff, like the Rays, you need to be strong in all areas, at all levels, at all times to mitigate against bad things happening at higher levels and you being stuck in that position where you don't have that kind of depth to work against it. It's not, they're not the Yankees. They can't go out and just sign guys to fill in problems. And so this is more, I think, indicative of life for a smaller market team, and a team that even as it's over 500 now, recognizes the likelihood of something special happening this year is probably not all that great. So we can't take our eye off the future as well.
Jeff, when does Bo Bichette get traded, and who's he going to?
Nice question.
Oh boy! Like you went straight from the Rays, to you literally raised that.
Yep.
I would be more comfortable answering the question, when should the Blue Jays trade Bo Bichette? And I think more and more there's becoming a very compelling argument that they move him and Vladimir Guerrero this year. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's what they're going to do, because there are a lot of things at play here, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not telling you or, frankly, any Jays fan who's listening anything they don't know. But what complicates the Bichette and Guerrero situation is the tenuous nature, I think, of Ross Atkins' tenure as general manager. If the Jays not only sell guys who they are widely expected to sell, but go beyond that and go full-on tear down and punt on 25 and make this, a 2 or 3 year thing, all of a sudden, is that not an indictment on Ross Atkins' tenure? Yeah. Like that's the thing. There's quite often moral hazard that's in play with general managers and their moves. And if they are, I think the question to ask if I am an owner of an organization is, if a general manager was in charge of my team, put together what he thought was going to be a winning team, what looked to pretty much everyone in baseball like it was going to be a winning team and didn't win, is that the person who I want going and executing some of the most important trades? So I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what the Rogers family thinks at this point. But what I do know is that the path toward competitiveness in 2025 for the Toronto Blue Jays is going to be a perilous and expensive one because they don't have a good enough farm system to complement what they've got right now and to turn things around. And while you can go the path of, say, the Kansas City Royals and go from a bad team to a good team in 1 year without spending tons of money, I mean, the Royals still guaranteed $100 million to free agents before giving Bobby Witt, $288 million himself. So it's, all of this is my long-winded way of saying the answer to this to me depends on what their plans are for the front office. If there is going to be a change, you wait. If there is not, I think you let it rip right now.
Okay, you got a better feel for this than I do because you talk to a lot more other teams than I do. Does it matter how he looks when he is struggling right now? Like the optics of the way it looks between the lines?
Yeah, absolutely. As it should. It's not just how it looks, it's what it is, right? Bo Bichette hasn't really produced this year. And that's the sort of thing, I got to be honest, that you should take into account if you're an organization. Do you let the guy recoup some of his trade value by playing better and then move him in the offseason? But then again, it only takes a few weeks of somebody playing well for teams to be like, all right, we see it's still there. We're in. So I don't think it's necessarily the kind of thing where he's got to have multiple months of top flight production in order for there to be interest. There's going to be interest specifically because Bo Bichette has been as good as he's been in the past.
Yeah, there's, and I mean, that's, Kevin and I were talking about this. It's the old story. You look at Bo's track record and you look at what he's doing this year, and your first thought is, well, he's much better than he is this year. But at the same time, if I'm a contending team, what am I getting for this year? Like, operating under the assumption I want to win this year, that's why I'm getting Bo Bichette. Like, am I going to have to wait 3 weeks for this thing to kick in? Or
how will he look at shortstop, too, if he's hitting like this?
Yeah, am I going to be able to run him out there at shortstop if he's hitting like this? I mean, it is. I told Barker today, man, this is – it's never a good time to have a bad year, but this has really complicated things for just about everybody.
Absolutely. And don't you think there's a little chicken and egg element to it, too? Are the Blue Jays playing poorly because Bo Bichette is playing poorly, or is Bo Bichette playing poorly because the Blue Jays are playing poorly?
Yep. No, I've said for a while, I think I'm not a big believer necessarily in change of scenery guys, but I think he's a change of scenery guy. I think he got tired of what's going on here long before last week. And, and that's
why I mentioned the optics. It's sure, Jeff, we can never talk about how a player's thinking because we're not between their ears. But, boy, it sure looks that way. That's why I ask, would it even matter if another president or GM would actually tune into a Jays game and watch the way Bo gets out? Just the shrug of the shoulders and almost looks like he don't care. I'm not saying that's how he feels. I'm just saying that's how it looks, and would that matter? That's all.
I honestly think that a president of baseball operations for another team might not be bothered by that at all. In fact, might look at that as a good thing because that's the sort of attitude. Here's why. That's the sort of attitude that, A, gets the guy traded, right?
Yeah. And
B, that very easily can be remedied with a change of scenery.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Jeff, do you think we're starting to realize now just how good Aaron Judge's year is? You know, I mean, obviously we've been following it. It's been a great year, but MLB Network, for example, today, not that they're the be all and end all, but they're saying, is this one of the best years we've seen a center fielder have? And I'm looking at these numbers and I'm going,
the answer is yes.
Yeah, this is something, man. Like this is, and I don't know. I just feel like we haven't given it enough attention. And
he's the best player in baseball. We put that to rest. No?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think when Shohei Ohtani's pitching next year, then Ohtani is. But this season, yes, I think Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. And it's remarkable to me, considering the guy was getting booed at Yankee Stadium like two months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting booed at home because he got off to a rough start. And now, I mean, we are so far separated from that. And he's had such a magnificent run here. And it's not a week that's hot or 2 weeks or even a month. This is 2 straight months where he has been conflagrant. I mean, 400-plus batting average, 1,400-plus OPS. His OPS plus this season is 221, which means he is more than 2 times as good adjusted against both history and ballpark as the rest of the league.
These 2 players.
And
basically.
I mean, yeah. And not just 2 players, but 2 above average players.
Right.
When you look at that historically, the last guy to finish a full season with an OPS plus of 221 or higher was Barry Bonds. He did it 4 straight times from 2001 to 2004. Prior to that, the last players to do 221 plus OPS plus were Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams in 1957.
Yeah. It's just, it's such a, and then Kevin, who obviously is a guy who played the game, always delights in pointing this out to me. He said, and if you haven't played the game, you don't understand how significant it is that he's doing it at that size.
Yeah.
Kevin's
6'8".
always made a point.
The strike zone's way different. To get the barrel in the strike zone that he has to get it into consistently and the way he doesn't chase, I mean, it's Jeff, he hits balls here above the flight deck in center field like easy. He ain't even trying, and that is so fast. It's like a country mile. It's just so far.
And
it's crazy.
It's the beauty and the curse of being an extraordinarily large man.
Yes.
On one hand, it does make it more difficult because you've got a big strike zone, and because getting all of the levers moving in the same way at the proper time in order to do damage to a ball is even more difficult the bigger you are. But if you can figure that out, man, all of a sudden you've got 6'7" and 282 pounds of force being imparted onto a baseball. And that's what he's done. He has cracked the code. He is a freak, and I just enjoy watching Aaron Judge play because I know I have the opportunity every single night to see something special. And if we look at just the last 50 games, guys, 26 home runs in a 50-game span, it's pretty good.
Yeah, we're going to let you go. Well, that's why they're not going to sign Soto, right? They're not going to get somebody other than Judge that amount of money. Nobody else is making more money than Judge. It's not happening.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, and one that I have made to others when they ask me why wouldn't the Yankees sign him? Because politically it could be a little weird because Soto is going to get more than Judge as long as he's healthy. Can you give more money to someone who isn't the highest producer on the team and isn't your captain and isn't the star around which your entire franchise orbits?
Nope.
No, I'm beginning to agree with you.
Yep.
I just look at Soto and think he'd be a great Yankee, but the more you look at it and you look at
I agree. No. I agree, and ultimately, at the end of the day, I think he does stay. But I think that the Yankees would be comfortable with it because, in addition to all of the things that he does physically, Aaron Judge is a very mentally strong person and a good leader. And like Tom Brady, who is getting outpaid by so many of his contemporaries, Aaron Judge puts the team first.
Mr. Passan, we're going to let you run. Have a great 4th, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. See you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Take care. That's Jeff Passan, MLB Insider with ESPN. Yeah, it is true. We've been watching the season and following Judge and all that, but for some reason today, I was watching the MLB Network. They were talking about it, and I just thought, it's almost like the guy has the season he had where he hits all those home runs.
Yeah.
It's almost like you don't notice how good the follow-up season is or how good the repeat season.
I don't think you can believe that he's having just as good or better season than he had that time. I think that's the point. Like, you just can't believe it. Like, it's going into it, everybody says, don't let that dude beat you. He beats him. It's like, that's the thing, right? It's saying, I just think there's no way they're giving Soto more money than him. No chance. Not a chance. No chance.
I mean, I don't know how you would do it. You would almost have to.
How do you sell it to Judge? That's the thing.
I mean, you
see the Marcus Stroman thing and the Judge walking like that. Soto ain't doing that.
No.
Like, that's the thing, right? He's doing it all, and he ain't hiding nowhere. Everybody knows who's 6'7" standing there.
I wonder, though, if you were Aaron Judge, and Jeff's point was interesting here about how it would look politically. I don't know if it would the political thing would apply to Judge as much as it might to other players on the team. Like, do you think Aaron Judge would go, yeah,
absolutely?
I mean, he makes us okay.
I would.
All right.
I'm the best thing walking, and I'm doing it here. Name another person that's done that.
I mean, Derek Jeter when he was with the Yankees.
I mean,
was he always the highest paid player in the team?
Did he do this? Did he do what Judge is doing?
He won multiple World Series.
I get that. I'm not saying that he did.
World Series.
But this
dated
dude,
Scarlett Johansson.
There you go. I mean, that earns the most money on the team.
Yeah, that would be. Anyhow, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess,
still his greatest accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. 7:07 is the first. What? 7:07 is the first pitch tonight. Ronel Blanco against Yusei Kikuchi. So you asked Chris Leroux the question, what would concern you more about Yusei Kikuchi? You know, we talked about how one of the reasons you might acquire Yusei Kikuchi is the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Pardon me, is because he pitches well against a couple of teams he may run into.
Yeah.
Houston's on one of those teams. What do you need to see from Yusei
Yeah,
Kikuchi
it's fastball command. I mean, that's what it is.
Just that simple with him?
Absolutely. I mean, it's when he's throwing it that hard and can locate it, not throw it down the middle, and getting people out. It makes the slider better. It makes the slow curveball better. He wants to throw that other thing he wants to throw that's not any good. He can throw that thing too because he's locating the heater. And, you know, a pitcher's exactly like a hitter. You're feeding off the fastball. You set everything up with what you're doing with the fastball. The 5 homers in the 3 games is not good. He gave up 7 over the first 14 starts. Yeah. Like, that's the difference, right, is keep it in the yard, locate the fastball better, add a little length there. I mean, he's bottom of the rotation for a reason, and he's going up against a really good lineup. But the lineup's top-heavy. With no Tucker, it's top-heavy. You can work through this thing if you're locating the heater. Do that. Give the top of the order for the Jays a chance. They'll have an opportunity to do whatever they're going to have an opportunity doing. So, yeah, I think if you're the front office for the Blue Jays, you're hoping he works through this pretty easy. So the trade value, at least I would be. I mean, you're preparing yourself for this. So you're finger crossing every guy that you're thinking that you might have a chance of trading. Every one of these starts are starting to matter now. So, and especially against the Astros, you know, you see the Yankees see this happening. Mm-hmm. Yankees may come a calling.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean,
big bang boom.
Yeah. So interesting hearing Passan talk about the Savali deal. I had forgotten about Shane Baz, who is going to take his spot in the lineup. Yeah. But it is a reminder, isn't it, that with the Rays, they've got Springs coming back. They've got McClanahan. You got to keep that in mind.
Weather the storm, right? That's what they're doing.
And this gets to the point, you know, we've talked about the changing nature of the American League East. I'd forgotten that the Rays are getting all these arms back next year.
Yeah.
So you got the Orioles being the Orioles. You got the Yankees.
Yeah, the Blue Jays couldn't be going through this at the worst time.
No.
I mean, they really couldn't. Because, I mean, who you more excited about, the Rays or the Blue Jays next year?
Well,
I know what the answer is. You know what the answer is. You had to bet
Rays, go!
You had to bet that big giant check that you make. It wouldn't be on the Blue Jays. I can promise you that. You may not say it as loud as you'd like to say it, but you'd say it.
I got.
Hey, see? Oh, boy. Circle him wagon. Woo!
You done?
Go, Rays, go!
That is it for us today. Mercifully, we'll be doing Blue Jays talk tonight. Winning edition following the Blue Jays win. Join us on Sportsnet 590 Fan. We'll be back with Blue Jays talk after tomorrow's game and a special 1-hour edition of Blair and Barker following Blue Jays talk. It's funny how that works out tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.